Right, now we've got on the show today Laura, who is the writer of a brand new musical, The In-Between. Hi, Laura.
Hello.
This new musical is currently in concept album form, isn't it? It's not on stage yet.
Well, I finished writing the whole show about August time, and I sort of wasn't really sure what to do next with it. So I thought I'd try recording some of the songs and just see what people thought of them, really. So I asked various people that I'd seen in shows in the West End and that I thought were fantastic performers. And it was very cool that lots of them said yes.
And these are people we would have seen on the West End in various shows in some form or other.
Yeah, I mean, so there's lots of people who've been in Wicked and Les Mis and We Will Rock You and Avenue Q.
That's fantastic. What's the musical about?
The musical, it's a fantasy show. It's about a place between parallel worlds, which sounds kind of strange, but it's very much coming from films like Tim Burton, shows like Doctor Who, books like Northern Lights, that kind of quirky fantasy. I love all that stuff, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And it's basically, there's a girl, Flick, who's had a really tough time and kind of gone off the rails a bit. And she's been raised by her older sister, Alice, who's a kind of highly strung, very straight-laced person. And it's about that kind of the antagonistic relationship they have with each other. And then it's that Flick gets trapped in this in-between place between parallel worlds, and through various things that kind of allows her to look back on her life and the choices that she's made and get the chance to change, really, in a way that she wouldn't have been able to without that. If that makes any sense at all.
This isn't your first musical, is it? You've written one before, called Fairy Tale, is that right?
Yeah, again, fancy. When I was still at uni, we did a showcase of it with Guildford School of Acting, which is actually where I first met Lauren Samuels, who's done one of the songs, because she was the lead in that. And again, that was sort of a kind of old school fairy tale story. So, I guess like the Brothers Grimm stories, or that kind of story before it got Disneyified. So quite dark, kind of fantasy story.
So does fantasy feature sort of quite heavily in your influences? You mentioned earlier Buffy and all that sort of stuff. Are you quite a fantasy fan? Is that where your main sort of for writing is? Yeah,
I am. I mean, I guess probably like a lot of people, it was kind of started with Harry Potter when I was 10 and I first read that. And since then I've read loads and loads of like fantasy sci-fi books. And, you know, I love all the movies like Stardust and TV shows, all stuff like Firefly and Buffy and Roswell and Alias and all that kind of stuff. Love it.
You sound like the type of person I'd happily sit down and watch a movie with. They're all the type of things I like as well. Now, I know you're not meant to ask a lady this, but do you mind me asking what your age is? How old you are?
I'm 24.
24. You've done quite a lot for 24 then, haven't you? I noticed on your profile on your website you've done music for Ken Whitewood UK tour.
Yeah.
You've been the arranger for a series, A Night of Thousand Voices. You've done quite a lot since, presumably, is this all since leaving uni?
Well, sort of. It kind of came out of the showcase we did with DSA. We invited a lot of industry people to, and one of them was a director called Hugh Waldridge, who I've been very fortunate enough to work with since, and so a lot of these shows are ones that he's directed. I've just been really fortunate to work on them, really, and work with some like just amazing people.
Did you write the book for the dialogue as well for The In-Between?
Yeah, I did. Not really so much because I think I'm a particularly good book writer. More just I think because I needed a story. I don't know. I think making up stories is always something that I've done since I was little, like almost before I started writing music. I always used to write little short stories from when I was very small. Yeah, so I guess that part of it was quite natural to me. I think you write often in the genre of stuff that you really love seeing. So I think almost, with the whole show, I've tried to write a show that I would want to see. So I mean, it has always been something that I've done, as I said, just making up lots of stories. I think with writing a whole musical, I've actually found it's something, although I didn't initially set out to be a book writer, I think it's something that I find quite hard to separate from writing the music. And it's the same thing with lyrics as well, because when I'm writing a song, it comes from like where the emotion of the scene is. So like the lyrics kind of come with the melody and the whole of what people would say and what a character's feeling at a particular time. For me, it's kind of all wrapped up together. So I think actually I would find it quite hard to separate that.
Does your music writing focus predominantly on things like musicals, but things that have a sort of bigger story? I mean, have you written things like pop songs as well, or is it purely on the sort of things with a story within them that you tend to write?
Well, I got into writing music really, really through like being in a rock band actually. So, I mean, I learnt piano since I was little, and my teacher always used to do composing competitions. So I think that was probably my first introduction to composition. But when I really started writing songs, it was in a rock band setting. I mean, like I love bands like Evanescence and Nightwish and that kind of really melodic, epic rock kind of thing, which I think is actually quite theatrical. So it wasn't actually that much of a transition to go from writing rock songs into writing musicals, which basically happened because I saw Les Mis.
Oh, fantastic musical, that one.
Yeah, it really was one of those change your life moments, actually. So I saw it, and then just the next day just thought, gosh, I've got to be involved in that world. It was just so wonderful.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
The album, of course, is available on iTunes, the concept album. It does only have 7 songs in it. Is that because it's a one-act musical, or are you planning to produce more songs if it goes to stage, or is it just really heavy in dialogue?
The whole show is about, on read-throughs we've done, it's just under 2.5 hours long, and it's got a lot more songs in it than the 7 songs. I mean, this was partly due to practicalities of, hiring a studio and things. So I just thought, how many songs can I do that will give people an idea of the story? I didn't really want to give away the ending, but give people enough idea of the story to see if maybe it's something that they'd like or be interested in, and, give enough of an idea of the style of the music and that sort of thing without doing a full-on whole concept album.
I actually came across the show as I was leaving watching We Will Rock You in London, and just as I was going down into the tube, into Tottenham Court Road Tube, I got handed one of your flyers. Is that your main sort of promotion activity at the moment? Is that how you're getting the word out of the show? Sort of, because obviously standing outside of theatres by tube stops, you've sort of got a captive audience, because they are that if they're coming out of that theatre, they like musicals. So is that sort of where you're aiming your main promotions activity at the moment?
We've looked at a variety of things. I mean, I think the thing is, because I don't have a big producer behind me at the moment, it's sort of looking at what are the things that we can do ourselves. And, I've got a lot of great friends that have been really supportive, and we're willing to go out in the pouring rain and stand around the West End giving people flyers. But I mean, a lot of it is we've been doing things online. I've sent posters to drama schools, things like Twitter, and just trying to get who might be interested to hear about it, really.
And how goes the plans to get it on stage? I noticed on Twitter shortly before I rang you today that you said you've got a plan to get it on stage, but you're going to need some help for it. Details to follow this evening. Can you give us a heads up on what that will be?
Well, you'll have to come on Facebook or Twitter this evening.
By the time this goes out, it'll be Sunday, so it'll have already gone by then.
What I'd love to do is, the really lovely thing from the response that we've had so far is that so positive and so nice about the show, and there's been a lot of people who've been really enthusiastic about it. And then I'd love to be able to to get them involved in telling other people about the show, about getting other people, who like the show, involved in telling other people about it, really.
Yeah,
that bit of it.
You've obviously got various means that people can follow what's going on. You've got the website, which is theinbetweenmusical.com, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
There's Twitter as well. Do you want to say what the Twitter is?
Yeah, so that's at @TIB_musical.
And on Facebook as well, is it?
Is facebook.com/theinbetweenmusical. And we've also got YouTube, which is youtube.com/theinbetweenmusical.
So that's good. And of course, you can buy the album on iTunes as well, the concept album, if you want to go and support the show via that. Is there a particular thing you need to search for to get that? Or I suppose you could just follow the link from the website. It would probably be the easiest, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, there's links from Facebook and from the main website. I think if you just search in iTunes for The In Between Musical, it should hopefully come up. The other thing is to search for any of the singers who are in it. It should come up as well.
One thing I was going to ask, which I almost forgot to do, have you had anybody mention yet that when they first heard it, they thought, oh, somebody's wrote an In-Betweeners musical, the TV show?
I've had one person I gave a poster to said something like, oh my goodness, they've made an In-Betweeners musical. And so it was like the most ridiculous thing. I'm not sure that show would translate overly well to the musical stage.
No.
But actually, I mean, it was something that I was a bit worried about when I heard about the TV show, because I started writing the show quite a while ago, before I'd heard about the show. But in the end, I just thought that the concept of it is so different and the artwork is so different that it seems generally there hasn't been a lot of confusion, which is great, really. It was too difficult to change the name within the show once I'd written the show, because it was so integral to it.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
That's okay.
Good luck with all the efforts to get it on stage and everything. We'd like to end with playing one of your songs, so maybe you can announce it for us. Just whichever one is your favourite. Do you have a favourite?
Oh no!
Oh, you don't want to pick. It's like picking between your babies, is it?
It is. It's like, yeah, can't pick between your children.
Oh no!
One of them will get offended. You might have a favourite one, but you can't say.
Shall I pick one then?
Oh, go on then.
Shall I pick one? I quite like She's My Sister. I think that's quite a fun cool. one. So, tell you what, to end the interview, do you want to announce that for us? Tell the listeners what we're going to play for you.
Okay, so here's She's My Sister, sung by Diane Pilkington and Cassandra Compton from the new musical The In-Betweens.